I guess that gleaming a lesson in everything is wired into my teacher DNA. We search for meaning and purpose in everything. And this is the insight that lockdown has given me in that regard. So let me start from day one. Like many of you, when I found out that I'd be confined to my home with my family for this extended period, I started to plan. I made a list of things I was going to do. I came up with little projects to sustain the days and tried to work out how I was going to balance my life. All I wanted during lockdown was for our household to be a really happy place, a place filled with laughter and shining eyes. How I was going to achieve this, goodness only knew. Whilst I was trying to get my head around the next few weeks, quite by accident I came across a mindfulness journey run online by Londolozi Game Reserve. I hadn't done anything like this before, so I thought I'd give the course a go. Their quiet reflections often spoke about gratitude, and this became a subtle theme in the background to my lockdown. The most overriding emotion that I feel after looking back on the past 21 plus 14 days is that of gratitude. I've always known my thankfulness for the life that I've been given, but considering the perspective that I've gleaned now, this gratitude is far more intense than before. I think I've gained a better understanding about what it means to be grateful. I think that too often being appreciative is dumbed down to a list of obligations or sometimes guilts. But I learnt that being grateful is a million little realizations that happen all the time and leave one feeling intensely humbled. I'm grateful for being able to live on a campus abundant with birds and small wildlife, an oasis so close to the city. I'm grateful for having my wife and 2 children with me over this lockdown period. I'm grateful to be able to end each day in the arms of the women that I love. I'm grateful for having a salary where I can put food on the table. Grateful for the warm summer days, for imagination, for virtual safaris, for my workshop, for laughter, warm conversations after the kids had gone to sleep, books, a pencil and paper, music, wine until it ran out. Grateful for the rain, grateful for the good Lord deliver us nightjar that lives in the field next to our house. I'm grateful for all of the people that were not with me, my parents, my brother, my friends, students, and colleagues. I would start my day with these thoughts every morning, trying not to repeat any of my gratitudes. Before the sun came up and the dawn was an orange blush on the horizon, I would ride my mountain bike around the school trails on my own. We were lucky to have this privilege living on the campus. Our house and the rest of the world was still asleep, and the world would awaken with a chorus of birds, each one joining songs as they were shaken from their rest. This was how I began my day. There was a peacefulness without traffic, without aircraft overhead. I would startle spurfowl near the ridge. It was always the same family with 2 adults and 3 little podgy chicks. I joined flocks of brown and red bishops, fluffy in their winter coats, and watched long-tailed mousebirds fly overhead. The grass would be entwined with dewy spiderwebs, and if I was lucky, I'd get to see the slender mongooses that lived by the astroturf. And I would escape into my mind as I rode. This time became so important. It gave me a space to reflect on past, present, and future. In the pace of our world brimming with doing and not enough breathing, I'd forgotten to be still and to introspect. And so in this way I began to look at how to disrupt this imminent Groundhog Day feel that lockdown would inevitably have. I found that social media became a scrapbook more than an activity. I found that television and Netflix lost their appeal very early on. So instead of a digital world, we decided to explore our garden, to try and do things more together, to make things. We started to create a list of birds that visited our yard, and this swelled over to more than 50 different species. We watched a black sparrowhawk chase a dove overhead. We counted the starlings and barbets that would feast at our bird table. We crept up on thrushes and robins that flitted into the dark recesses of the trees. On one afternoon, the lories were alarming in the paperbark tree, and following their gaze, we saw a spotted eagle owl that was sunning itself on a hidden corner of our roof. We made kites, we flew tethered Chinese lanterns, created board games. We watched the sunrise and counted the stars. We had picnics on the lawn and created pretend campsites under the trees. We played with the dogs. We whittled model boats out of wood and had drive-ins in the garden. We watched our neighbouring blacksmith plovers hatch and then fledge. My daughter created safaris where we stalked around the garden to find hidden animals. We painted, sketched and drew. We made things out of clay, and we baked a lot. We made our own pizzas, we bried on the patio and we read lots of books. We made milkshakes, we roasted marshmallows, we climbed trees and lay in the sun. We enjoyed virtual game drives and watched the hyena pups grow up on Wild Earth. We revisited old photographs of family holidays and made our own colourfully frothy science experiments. We did all of the things that we never seemed to find time for in our normal life. Not that there weren't the distractions of the odd iPad and TV here and there, but we tried to bury the technology as much as we could. Outside was our refuge. And in each of these moments I realized something. I found that creating time together as a family, where we did the small things together, was so important, and it was something that I'd really neglected prior to lockdown. And most of it evolved around being outdoors. As a family we began to thirst for the bush, for the wild spaces. I don't know how many other people felt the same. I guess with the silence of the deserted streets and clear skies, nature showed herself more regularly. Or maybe we just spent more time outside to see her. I wonder how many other things had been forgotten prior to lockdown. I wonder how many of those things would hold more meaning in all of our lives after lockdown. I wonder if we will carry on being grateful for the world around us when life returns to normal. I wonder. I guess that what I'm trying to say is that despite being confined to missing so much, I think that we gained a lot as a family as well. I'm not sure that I want to be inside all the time in front of a screen. That's why I've created my office outside. I think that I need to slow things down sometimes. I need to make more time for the people that are rooted in my heart. I need to make space to think. Time has allowed me more moments for me to be thankful for all of this. As the crisp autumn leaves begin to drop from the trees, I find that my gratitude has made me rescaffold my priorities. I'll not always have time like this, and when work begins again, another layer will be added to my world, as it must. But I shouldn't forget what I've learned. As I prepare for the new term, I find that my teaching prep is becoming more inquisitive, more probing. I focus my efforts more on lessons rather than how-to guides. I look at transplanting more introspection between lines of literature and self-awareness in the rhyme of a poem. I focus on life in literature. I will work at how to balance my life as well. What I can say with conviction is that there's something about being outside that serves as a constant reminder of this balance that I've been talking about. As the wind presses gently against my skin and the sun warms my back, I feel something nourishing about being outside. Being able to look at the piercing blue sky just feels less sterile. There's an energy to the world that is given by the elements. It brings a feeling of interconnectedness. It brings a sense of the rhythm of life. It brings joy. And what I realized is what I'm most grateful for, out of everything else, are the opportunities that the outside world has created for me to share the joy with the people that I love. Because eventually this global crisis will end, and when it does, it'll be really important that we don't forget the lessons that lockdown has taught us. Those lessons mustn't end.